The Purge franchise is set in a world where every year, for one night only, all crime is legal. Of course, given a premise like that, it's full of stuff that just does not make sense. Here are the most ridiculous things in the Purge movies people just ignored. Consider, if you will, Mother Nature and her sprawling variety of birds of prey, each specialized in a certain field to the point of near perfection. There's the Harris's hawk, one of the few avian predators that hunts in a pack. There's the red-tailed hawk, adaptable to almost any climate in the continental United States. And of course there is the Ethan hawk, a majestic creature shown in The Purge to be an expert in home defense. As a security salesman, he's made a comfortable living knowing his product inside and out. He understands his job so well that he knows exactly what to worry about when a bunch of prep school purgers show up at his home. A battering ram. Maybe a truck with some tow cables to tear down the door. So what are people paying for? What's the point of a security system that can be taken down by a Jeep with a winch on the one night of the year when everybody's mom has a Punisher battle van? Think about how often we see purgers driving souped-up deathmobiles in the rest of the movies. Doesn't it seem like being murder car-proof would be a pretty necessary selling point for a security system? What's the creepiest toy you remember having growing up? For Charlie Sandin, it's a remote-control real-time video drone on wheels with a half-exploded baby doll melted to the top of it, which is definitely a pretty weird thing to put at the top of your Christmas list. He loves that thing, though, and uses it enough that his mom isn't even bothered by its unsettling appearance. It looks like it was designed by Sid from Toy Story by way of the Borg. Either way, it seems like a seriously underutilized resource. Wouldn't you feel much better sending a zany, terrifying toy to do murder recon from the comfort of your panic room than you would die-harding your way through your own house hoping not to get stabbed? Look, there's no denying that everyone has a dark side that they need to indulge from time to time. It's the whole point of the series if you turn a blind eye to the thematic equivalent of a series of neon billboards about how the rich take advantage of poor folks.
That piece of filth that you are protecting exists only to serve our need to purge!
It's not the fact that everyone gets stoked on domestic terrorism once a year that should bother you, though. It's that they all apparently decide to treat it like a shockingly well-funded community college burlesque show. There are plenty of examples throughout the films, but it's the offenders in the first installment who set the precedent by dressing up like a group of private school super seniors at an age play convention. Two of them spend most of their evening skipping in circles with machetes, which, now that we're thinking of it, isn't actually illegal. You could skip around with a machete on a random Tuesday if you really wanted to. You don't have to wait for the Purge to do it. And they're the tip of the iceberg. The sequels are lousy, with weirdos in weirdo masks reciting poetry while they weed-whack their neighbors to death. Basically, the question you have to ask yourself is, how many just below the surface maniacs took high school theater classes, and how are they the alpha dogs in this scenario? Sequels beget expectations. Things have to get bigger. T2 meant more Terminators. Aliens meant more than one alien. And the Purge Anarchy? Oh, you'd better believe it meant more purging. A whole lot more purging. We saw purging at a scale hitherto undreamt of. At the end of Anarchy, for the first time in the franchise, we see the full scope of the damage done by the Purge. Entire city blocks burned down as a testament to the great American new normal. This raises the question, though, whether it's to cleanse the nation's soul or to reduce the low-income population. Is it really worth losing, say, the MetLife building? Rebuilding that thing is going to take a lot of money, and if you're not done by the time the next Purge arrives, well, you might as well write the whole thing off. Whatever the purported positives of purging might be, they've got to be objectively minimal compared to the cost of vindictive student loan debtors and subprime mortgage holders tossing Molotov cocktails around the financial district. If you're fortunate enough to have spent any time with your grandparents, you've no doubt heard them lamenting the state of current affairs. Habits are hard to break, and nobody has an easy time seeing the traditions they grew up with relegated to the past.
I used to be with it, but then they changed what it was. Now what I'm with isn't it, and what's it seems weird and scary to me.
That's what makes it so unsettling when we see people like the old lady in the Purge Anarchy gleefully auctioning off the opportunity to hunt the most dangerous game in a high-stakes laser tag arena. It's not the violence and inhumanity. If you've made it a movie and a half into the franchise, you're already getting numb to that. It's the idea that Grandma adjusted so quickly to the idea that our new national holiday was a slaughter-palooza. Yes, part of the point of these movies is that everyone has a monster in the mirror. It just seems like 60 or so years of adapting to the idea that murder is wrong would have made it more difficult to get stoked on National Stab Day. There's nothing more rewarding than a redemption arc. Remember back when you thought Han Solo was going to just leave his friends behind? But then he swung around and sent Darth Vader spinning off into space? We get to see one of those play out in the Purge Anarchy 2, but it's less of a redemption arc and more a reminder that there's a thin line between forgiveness and stupidity. When Leo goes to confront the man who killed his son in a drunk driving crash, the audience has a pretty good idea that he won't actually go through with murdering the dude. Heck, they probably even have a feeling that he's going to get saved in the 11th hour by the famously steady shooting that all recovered alcoholics are capable of. Never mind that Leo spent the entire movie playing like he's making an audition reel for The Punisher. There's a lesson to be learned about how we can forgive each other even in the midst of the purge. Even with all that, though, it's tough to believe that the group would trust Sir Drinks-a-Lot to drive them to the hospital afterwards when the only thing they know about him is that he's committed vehicular manslaughter. Maybe take that whole forgiveness thing a little slower if you want to make it out of this thing alive. The Purge Anarchy tells us that the real point of the Purge was never to give potential serial killers their own fun holiday. Instead, it's meant to give Ayn Rand enthusiasts their fantasies of killing off people who are dependent on government assistance. You know, like Ayn Rand was. We're told that this has solved an otherwise untreatable economic crisis.
Unfortunately, the citizens aren't killing enough. So we supplement it all to keep things balanced.
Yay, liberty! Okay, ready for a fun but relevant lesson on the economic effects of removing that much spending from the economy and killing off everyone willing to work a service industry job? Fewer people spending money doesn't create a better economy. Fewer people working the crappy jobs doesn't either. Much to the dismay of any Thanos fans in the audience, fewer people in general is a bad thing. Populations tend to adapt to growing demands. They tend to collapse when everyone working to meet demands gets a piano dropped on them just because it's March 21st. Not to be overly morbid here, but there are plenty of ways to die on a regular night, and that increases exponentially during the purge. That raises a very important question though. Who rides a skateboard to purge? Who looks at streets filled with human bodies, flaming debris, and 1,000 loose, slightly altered spirit Halloween masks and thinks, sick place to ollie, bro? Even roller skates have more dystopian future cred than skateboards. Okay, maybe you don't have a car. Who does in this murder-based economy, right? Well, good news. Tonight's the night that you can steal one without fear of legal consequences, so maybe leave your board at home and put your soft, easily stabbed body behind a few layers of metal instead. In the Purge election year, Leo Barnes is doing his anti-hero with the heart of gold thing, protecting one of maybe 3 politicians in US history who were able to make it out of their 40s and look like they got literally any sleep since being elected. She wants to end the purge, so the bad guys are gunning for her hard. At one point, Leo takes a slug to the shoulder, and like the true action movie hero that he is, he just walks it off. The joke's on him though, there was a GPS tracking chip in the bullet. Now, the new founding fathers of America are on their trail. The thing is, hiding a GPS tracker in a bullet is one of those ideas that sounds really good until you think about it for 5 seconds. Bullets, with their extreme velocities and a habit of not loving to slow down, are a ridiculously funny way to put a tracker on someone. The ones that don't go all the way through a person do all sorts of other crazy stuff, like fragment or mushroom. Breaking into a dozen pieces and being inside of a piece of metal that rapidly expands or contracts? These aren't generally the best ways to keep sensitive electronic equipment working, even before you get to the part where a bullet can sometimes go straight through someone. Good thing for the NFFA that this one didn't. The Purge movies are filled to the brim with colorful sociopaths, but the first Purge takes the cake by introducing us to Skeletor, a man so crazy he's not even scared of being sued by Mattel for copyright infringement.
Fights are fun! I like fights!
He's unstable, he's unpredictable, he's a menace, so why isn't he already in jail? As dystopian as the new founding fathers' society might be, it's difficult to imagine any nation so dystopian that they wouldn't arrest this guy. Sure, being a weirdo isn't a crime. You know what just might be though? Smoking crack during the 364 non-purge days of the year, which is something that he openly admits to while talking to a government official during the first 3 minutes of the film. This is not a man possessed of a working survival instinct. This is a human cry for attention. And when he's crying, "I love doing drugs" in front of a cop, he probably shouldn't be on the street. Within the Purge universe, or the Purge-averse if you want to sound gross about it, Marissa Tomei plays Dr. May Updale. The good doctor is responsible for the creation of the Purge, concocting it as a social experiment, wondering, one can only presume, what's the worst that can happen? Hang on to your hats, viewers. The worst happens, and by the worst, we mean, you know, purge stuff. Dr. Updale is appalled to see slightly more murder than the otherwise reasonable amount of murder she was expecting. And how was she to know that government officials would take advantage of a situation like this? It's not like she's a psychologist. Oh, wait. The point is, it's ridiculous that she'd be shocked that the Purge got violent. Her vision wasn't corrupted, it wasn't Frankenstein's monster, she offered people money to kill each other. It's just a shame that she never met anyone who could teach her about power and responsibility. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more grunge videos about your favorite stuff are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.